What if I told you that during the worst agricultural disaster in American history, the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, when crops died, topsoil blew away, and millions starved, there were vegetables that not only survived but actually thrived? Vegetables so tough, so drought-resistant, and so perfectly adapted to harsh conditions that families who knew about them ate well while their neighbors went hungry? These vegetables exist. They're still here. But walk into any modern garden center and you won't find a single one of them. Check the seed catalogs from big companies and they're mysteriously absent. Why? Because these indestructible vegetables have one fatal flaw from a business perspective. They're too easy. They don't need fertilizers, pesticides, or constant care. They save their own seeds, and once you plant them, many come back year after year without replanting. In other words, they make you independent. And the gardening industry hates that. Today I'm revealing 15 ancient vegetables that survived the Dust Bowl when everything else died. Vegetables that your great-grandparents grew, that Depression-era families depended on, and that modern nurseries deliberately stopped selling because they're too self-sufficient. Stick around because number 7 on this list fed entire communities through the worst drought in history and requires literally zero watering once established. And that bonus tip at the end? It's the Depression-era soil technique that makes these indestructible vegetables even tougher. Welcome to EverGreen Home Living, where we uncover the homesteading knowledge that corporations buried. I'm here every week sharing forgotten wisdom about growing resilient food, preserving your harvest, and building real independence from the fragile industrial food system that fails the moment conditions get tough. Let me tell you why this video matters so deeply. My grandmother lived through the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma. She was just a child, but she remembered everything. The black blizzards of dust, the dead cattle, the failed wheat fields, the neighbors who left for California. But her family stayed and survived. You know why? Because her mother knew which vegetables could handle drought. Years later, my grandmother showed me her old garden. She still grew the same vegetables her mother had grown during the Dust Bowl, vegetables I'd never seen in any store or garden center. These saved us, she told me. When the wheat died and the corn withered, these kept producing. Nurseries don't sell them anymore because they want you buying seeds every year. But these? Plant once and they take care of themselves. That conversation changed everything for me. I realized that resilient, survival-level gardening knowledge was being deliberately erased in favor of delicate hybrid vegetables that require perfect conditions and constant inputs. This video is about bringing that knowledge back. Whether you're worried about climate change, water shortages, economic collapse, or just want vegetables that actually survive when conditions get tough, these 15 Dust Bowl survivors are exactly what you need. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button right now and ring that notification bell. We share survival gardening wisdom every week that builds real food security, not the fake security of a fragile grocery store supply chain. Your support helps us preserve this knowledge. Now let's jump into the countdown. Number 15, Kohlrabi, the forgotten brassica. Starting at number 15, we have Kohlrabi, and this strange-looking vegetable with a swollen stem was a Depression-era staple that survived when cabbage and broccoli failed. Why it survived the Dust Bowl? Kohlrabi is incredibly drought-tolerant for a brassica. It develops a thick, waxy skin on its bulb that prevents moisture loss. While other brassicas wilted and died in the heat and drought, Kohlrabi kept growing and producing edible bulbs. The Depression-era use, families ate Kohlrabi raw. It tastes like mild, sweet broccoli stems, boiled or stored in root cellars for months. One planting provided food for an entire season. Why nurseries don't sell it? Kohlrabi looks weird. Modern consumers don't recognize it. It doesn't photograph well for catalogs. And it's too easy. Plant seeds, thin ones, harvest in 50 to 60 days. No special care needed, no ongoing sales potential. How to grow it? Plant seeds in spring or fall. Water until established, then they handle drought remarkably well. Harvest when bulbs are 2 to 4 inches diameter. Eat fresh or store. The resilience factor. Kohlrabi tolerates poor soil, heat, drought, and cold better than almost any other brassica. Number 14, Rutabaga, the Swedish turnip. At 14, we have Rutabaga, also called Swedish turnip or Swede, and this root vegetable kept northern families alive through Dust Bowl winters. Why it survived the Dust Bowl? Rutabagas have extremely deep taproots that search for moisture far underground. Even when topsoil was dust, Rutabaga roots went deep enough to find moisture. They also store exceptionally well, up to 6 months in cool storage. The survival food. Rutabagas were planted in summer, grew through drought, and were harvested in fall. One family could store 100+ pounds of rutabagas in a root cellar and eat them all winter when nothing else was available. Why they disappeared. Rutabagas take 90+ days to mature. Too long for modern impatient gardeners. They're not trendy, and they require no special fertilizers or care, so there's no profit in selling related products. How to grow them. Plant seeds in midsummer for fall harvest. They need almost no care. The roots get sweeter after frost. Harvest before hard freeze and store in cool, humid conditions. The forgotten nutrition. Rutabagas are packed with vitamin C and fiber. Depression families stayed healthy through winter eating rutabagas when fresh vegetables were impossible. Number 13. Salsify. The oyster plant. Number 13 is Salsify, and this root vegetable was called poor man's oyster because when cooked it tastes remarkably like oysters, giving depression families a taste of luxury during the hardest times. Why it survived the Dust Bowl. Salsify has a deep taproot, 12 to 18 inches, that reaches moisture far below the dry surface. It's also biennial. Even if drought killed the tops, the roots survived underground and regrew the next year when rains returned. The depression delicacy. Families would boil salsify roots and serve them as mock oysters or make oyster stew with milk, butter, and salsify. It brought a small comfort during terrible times. Why nurseries stopped selling it. Salsify takes 120 days to mature. The roots are skinny and labor-intensive to harvest compared to carrots. There's no commercial market, and it self-sows readily, meaning you never need to buy seeds again. How to grow it. Plant seeds in early spring, thin to 4 to 6 inches apart. Ignore completely. Harvest roots in fall after frost. Frost improves flavor. Or leave in ground all winter and harvest in spring. The survivor trait. Salsify survives neglect, drought, poor soil, and extreme temperatures. It's nearly indestructible. Number 12. Parsnips, the sweet survivor. At 12, we have parsnips, and these sweet, pale roots were essential Dust Bowl survival food because they improved in flavor the harsher conditions got. Why it survived the Dust Bowl. Parsnips are extremely cold-hardy and drought-tolerant once established. They develop deep taproots that find moisture far underground. And here's the magic. Freezing temperatures convert starches to sugars, making parsnips sweeter after frost. While other vegetables died from cold, parsnips got better. The winter harvest. Depression families left parsnips in the ground all winter, harvesting fresh roots even in January and February when the ground thawed. It was fresh food during the hungriest months. Why they're rare now. Parsnips take 120 to 180 days to mature. Far too long for modern gardeners who want instant gratification. They also self-sow readily, eliminating repeat seed sales. How to grow them. Plant seeds in early spring. They germinate slowly, 2 to 3 weeks. Thin to 3 inches apart. Water occasionally until established, then ignore. Leave in ground through winter and harvest as needed. The survival wisdom. Plant parsnips and forget them was Depression-era advice. They need nothing and produce reliably. Number 11. Turnips, the fast food. Number 11 is turnips, and these fast-growing roots provided quick calories during the Dust Bowl when families needed food immediately. Why it survived the Dust Bowl. Turnips mature in just 40 to 60 days, making them one of the fastest root crops. They tolerate drought, heat, and poor soil, and both the roots and the greens are edible, giving you 2 vegetables from one plant. The quick harvest. When families were desperate and food stores were empty, they could plant turnips and have food in 6 to 8 weeks. Turnip greens were ready even sooner, just 30 days. Why they're not promoted. Turnips are too easy and too fast. No specialty fertilizers needed, no pest control needed. They just grow. There's no profit in selling a vegetable that requires nothing. How to grow them. Plant seeds in spring or late summer. Scatter seeds, cover lightly, water until sprouted. Thin seedlings and eat the thinnings as greens. Harvest small roots at 2 to 3 inches, sweetest, or let them grow larger for storage. The dual harvest. Harvest greens continuously while roots develop. Both are highly nutritious and filling. Number 10. Mangels, fodder beets, the livestock saver. At 10, we have mangels, mangelwurzels, giant beets grown for livestock feed, but Dust Bowl families ate them too when food was scarce. Why it survived the Dust Bowl? Mangels are the toughest beets in existence. They grow massive roots, 10 to 20 pounds each, in terrible soil and drought conditions. They were bred specifically for harsh climates and minimal care. The desperate food. During the worst Dust Bowl years, families fed mangels to livestock to keep animals alive. But when things got truly desperate, people ate them too, boiled, mashed, or cooked in stews. Why they vanished? Mangels are animal feed, not proper vegetables. Modern gardeners wouldn't grow livestock food, but Depression families couldn't afford to be picky. Calories were calories. How to grow them? Plant seeds in spring, thin to 8 to 12 inches apart. Water until established, then ignore. Harvest enormous roots in fall. Store for 6+ months. The survival trait. One small plot of mangels produced hundreds of pounds of food with almost no care. Number 9. Jerusalem artichokes, the indestructible tuber. At 9, we have Jerusalem artichokes, Sunchokes, and these native North American tubers survived the Dust Bowl so well that they actually became invasive in some areas. Why it survived the Dust Bowl? Jerusalem artichokes are native to the Great Plains, evolved specifically for drought, poor soil, and extreme temperatures. They have deep, spreading roots that find moisture anywhere it exists. And they're perennial. Even if drought killed the tops, the tubers survived underground and regrew when rain returned. The native wisdom. Native Americans grew these for centuries because they're nearly indestructible. Depression families who knew about them had a permanent food supply that required zero maintenance. Why nurseries avoid them? Jerusalem artichokes spread aggressively. Once planted, they're nearly impossible to remove. They don't fit the controlled garden model that modern gardening promotes. And they're perennial, eliminating yearly seed sales. How to grow them? Plant tubers in spring. Water occasionally the first year. After that, they need nothing. Harvest tubers in fall. Any tubers left in soil regrow next year. You'll have them forever. The warning: only plant if you want them permanently. They spread aggressively and take over. Number 8. Cow peas, black-eyed peas, the nitrogen fixer. Number 8 is cow peas, black-eyed peas. And these drought-tolerant legumes not only survived the Dust Bowl, but actually improved the devastated soil while producing protein-rich food. Why it survived the Dust Bowl? Cowpeas evolved in Africa and are specifically adapted to heat and drought. They fix nitrogen in soil, improving fertility rather than depleting it. While other crops sucked the last nutrients from dying soil, cowpeas added nutrients back. The Depression staple. Black-eyed peas and ham hocks became Southern survival food during the Depression. The dried peas stored for years, providing protein when meat was unaffordable. Why they're not mainstream? Cowpeas are associated with poverty in Southern cooking. Modern seed companies focus on trendy vegetables, not poor people food. But cowpeas are nutritionally superior and far more drought-tolerant than green beans. How to grow them? Plant seeds after frost danger in spring. Water until established. They tolerate drought, heat, and poor soil. Harvest fresh as field peas or let dry on the vine for dried beans. Infinite storage. The soil benefit. Cowpeas leave soil better than they found it. Crucial during Dust Bowl when soil was destroyed. Number 7. Lamb's quarters, the volunteer survivor. At 7, we have lamb's quarters, the weed that saved countless Dust Bowl families because it volunteered everywhere and required literally zero care. Why it survived the Dust Bowl? Lamb's quarters is a wild plant that thrives in disturbed, poor soil. It's drought-tolerant, heat-tolerant, and produces thousands of seeds that lie dormant until conditions are right. During the Dust Bowl, when planted crops failed, lamb's quarters appeared naturally and provided free, highly nutritious greens. The hidden superfood. Lamb's quarters has more calcium than milk, more iron than spinach, and more protein than cabbage. Depression families who ate weeds were often healthier than wealthy families eating white bread and canned foods. Why it's called a weed? Because seed companies can't sell seeds for a plant that appears on its own. Lamb's quarters was deliberately rebranded as a weed to discourage consumption and maintain dependency on commercial vegetables. How to grow it? Don't pull it out. When lamb's quarters volunteers in your garden, let some grow. Harvest young plants, under 6 inches, for best flavor. Cook like spinach. Let a few plants go to seed and you'll have lamb's quarters forever. The Dust Bowl truth. Families who recognized lamb's quarters as food survived. Those who didn't went hungry while nutritious food grew all around them. Number 6, Purslane, the succulent survivor. At 6, we have Purslane, another weed that thrived during the Dust Bowl because it's a succulent that stores water in its leaves. Why it survived the Dust Bowl. Purslane is a succulent. It stores water internally and survives extreme drought. It spreads low across the ground, shading soil and preventing moisture loss. While lettuce and spinach died, Purslane covered the earth and produced tender, nutritious greens. The omega-3 miracle. Purslane contains more omega-3 fatty acids than any other leafy vegetable, more than most fish. Depression families eating purslane got nutrition that wealthy people couldn't buy. Why it's ignored. Like lamb's quarters, purslane is too easy. It volunteers everywhere, requires nothing, and can't be commercialized. Modern gardening industry pretends it doesn't exist. How to grow it. Plant seeds in warm weather, or just wait. Purslane volunteers in most gardens. Let it spread. Harvest succulent stems and leaves all summer. It reseeds itself annually. The depression blessing. Families with purslane in their gardens had fresh greens all summer during the hottest, driest conditions. Number 5. Amaranth, the forbidden grain. At 5, we have amaranth, the ancient grain that survived the Dust Bowl and produces more protein than wheat, which is exactly why seed companies don't promote it. Why it survived the Dust Bowl. Amaranth is incredibly drought-tolerant and heat-loving. It evolved in harsh Mexican highlands and thrives in conditions that kill other grains. While wheat crops failed across the Great Plains, the few farmers who grew amaranth harvested successfully. The complete protein. Amaranth provides complete protein, all 9 essential amino acids, and more iron and calcium than wheat. Depression families who ate amaranth stayed strong, while others weakened from nutrient deficiency. Why it's not commercial. Amaranth doesn't fit industrial agriculture. It doesn't grow in monoculture well. The seeds are tiny and hard to mechanically harvest, and it saves easily, eliminating repeat seed sales. How to grow it. Plant seeds after frost. Water until established, 2 to 3 weeks. Then stop. Drought stress actually increases seed production. Harvest seed heads in fall when dry. Thresh and winnow seeds. The Dust Bowl lesson. Families who grew grains that could handle drought didn't starve. Those dependent on commercial wheat did. Number 4. Orach, mountain spinach. As, the heat lover. At 4, we have Orach, a spinach substitute that actually prefers hot, dry weather, making it perfect for Dust Bowl conditions. Why it survived the Dust Bowl. Orach is native to saline, arid regions and evolved to thrive in heat and drought. While spinach bolted and died in summer heat, Orach grew vigorously and produced tender leaves all summer long. The spinach replacement. Depression families used Orach like spinach, in salads when young, cooked when mature. The red varieties are especially beautiful and nutritious. Why it disappeared. Spinach became commercialized and Orach was abandoned. Spinach fits industrial farming, short season, predictable. Orach doesn't, so seed companies stopped selling Orach. How to grow it. Plant seeds in spring. Thin to 12 inches apart. Harvest leaves continuously. Let plants grow 4 to 6 feet tall and produce seeds. It self-sows readily. The heat advantage. Orach produces greens in midsummer when nothing else will. Number 3. Good King Henry, the perennial survivor. At 3, we have Good King Henry, a perennial vegetable that survived the Dust Bowl because it came back year after year from deep roots, even when annual crops failed. Why it survived the Dust Bowl. Good King Henry is perennial with roots that go deep underground, deeper than drought could penetrate. Even during the worst years, the roots survived and sent up edible shoots in spring. The 3-season harvest. Spring shoots, like asparagus, summer leaves, like spinach, and flower buds, like broccoli, all from one plant that lived for decades. Why it's extinct commercially? Perennial vegetables destroy the seed business model. Plant once, harvest for 20 years equals 0 repeat sales. Good King Henry was deliberately removed from catalogs. How to grow it. Plant seeds or root divisions in spring. Water the first year. After that, it needs nothing. Harvest shoots, leaves, and buds for decades. The Depression legacy. Families who planted Good King Henry before the Dust Bowl had food throughout the crisis without replanting. Number 2. Skirret, the medieval root. At 2, we have skirret, a medieval root vegetable that Depression-era gardeners remembered from their grandparents' gardens, one of the last remnants of European peasant food culture. Why it survived the Dust Bowl. Skirret is perennial and produces clusters of sweet, finger-sized roots. The plant survives drought, cold, and neglect. Even when tops died, roots survived underground and regrew. The sweet survival food. Skirret roots taste sweet and nutty, providing comfort during hard times. Children especially love them. Why it's nearly extinct. Skirret requires hand harvesting. The roots are small and clustered. Commercial farming can't mechanize it, so it was abandoned completely. It's now almost impossible to find seeds. How to grow it, if you can find it. Plant root divisions. Water the first year. Harvest roots in fall. Leave some in ground to regrow. Divide clumps every few years. The lost treasure. Skirret represents hundreds of vegetables that were abandoned because they didn't fit industrial agriculture. Number 1. Horseradish, the indestructible perennial. And at number 1, we have horseradish, the ultimate Dust Bowl survivor because it's literally impossible to kill once planted. Why it survived the Dust Bowl. Horseradish has roots that go extremely deep, 6+ feet underground where moisture always exists. It's perennial and spreads aggressively. You can harvest 90% of the roots and the remaining 10% regrow into a full plant. It survives drought, flood, freeze, heat, neglect, and deliberate attempts to remove it. The permanent condiment. Depression families who had horseradish could add flavor to bland survival foods. Fresh horseradish on potatoes, beans, or bread made meager meals more palatable. Why nurseries don't sell it? Because once you plant horseradish, you never need to buy it again. In fact, you'll be trying to get rid of it. There's zero repeat business. How to grow it. Plant 1 root piece. Water occasionally the first year. Harvest roots each fall. Any fragment left in soil regrows. You'll have horseradish forever, whether you want it or not. The survival truth. Horseradish represents the ultimate resilient vegetable. Plant once, harvest forever, survives anything. Bonus tip. The Dust Bowl soil technique. Here's the bonus, the Depression-era technique that made these vegetables even tougher. Deep mulching with anything available. The desperate innovation. Dust Bowl farmers couldn't buy mulch or compost, so they used whatever they had. Newspaper, shredded or whole sheets. Straw from failed wheat crops. Tumbleweed, cut and layered. Any organic debris available. Why it worked. Heavy mulch, 4 to 6 inches. Prevented topsoil from blowing away in dust storms, retained every drop of rain that fell, kept soil cooler, reducing evaporation, eventually decomposed, adding organic matter to destroyed soil. The modern application. Use this technique today with free materials. Cardboard boxes from stores, free. Shredded paper, leaves, grass clippings, wood chips. The result, vegetables become even more drought tolerant and productive with deep mulching. Final thoughts. Why this knowledge was buried. These 15 vegetables survived the worst agricultural disaster in American history. They proved themselves under conditions that killed everything else. They required minimal water, no fertilizers, no pesticides, and many self-sowed or came back perennially. So why don't nurseries sell them anymore? Because resilient, self-sufficient vegetables are terrible for business. The modern gardening industry makes money from dependency, from selling you seeds every year, fertilizers every month, pest controls every week. Vegetables that take care of themselves, save their own seeds, and come back year after year destroy that business model. This wasn't an accident. This was a deliberate transition from resilient, survivor crops to delicate hybrids that require constant inputs and yearly seed purchases. But the old knowledge survived. These vegetables still exist, and now you know about them. Every Dust Bowl survivor you plant is a step toward real food security, the kind that doesn't fail when conditions get tough, when supply chains break, or when money gets tight. If this video revealed knowledge you'd never heard before, Hit subscribe right now and ring that bell. We're Evergreen Home Living, and we preserve the survival wisdom that corporations tried to erase. Share this with anyone who wants a resilient garden that survives anything. Drop a comment telling me which Dust Bowl survivor you're planting this year. And remember, these vegetables fed families through the worst crisis in agricultural history. They'll feed you through whatever comes next. Thanks for watching, and welcome to growing food that survives. I'll see you in the next one.